Welcome to another episode of Successfully Live. I'm Adam O'Donnell, the co-founder of Successfully. Today, I'm super excited to be here with Andreas Knoefel.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Andreas has been in customer success and customer service for the majority of his career, working for awesome companies like SAP, Apple, and a number of different other ones in a lot of leadership roles. So today, we're going to be talking about a series of articles that you're putting out called Crossing the Renewals Chasm. Similar to Jeffrey Moore's book, that same concept. He's kind of playing off that, but with customer success.
Yep.
So got a couple articles that are coming out. Depending on when you watch this, they might all be out. You've got to check them out. But we're going to be kind of pulling it apart today and just diving into what this really means, why you came up with it, and how we can apply this as customer success leaders to our day-to-day lives.
Exactly.
So, just what is crossing the renewals chasm? What does that mean to you?
Get the framework together that you need to implement in order to have continued and reliable success. If you follow the crossing the chasm, and it is a great framework to apply here, many companies are still wondering, I had a couple of customers. They were successful, but now I'm kind of faltering. Why is it not picking up? Why do I not have this influx of new customers that are ready to renew? I see my churn increasing. I see my customers not being really as successful as I want them to be. But I had all this success and it's just not there. And so as I was helping other companies in order to get to that stage, and I picked up the book again, I realized, here it is, right? You need to have more than just your product or service. You need more around it. So in the original book, it's mentioned as the full product. I phrase it as the full service that you need. And then I put together kind of a framework around what are all these other service components that you need to have around in order to have that full picture, so that not just your first customers, but a larger customer base that has more expectations says, yes, I feel at home here. And actually, at the end of the day, I feel ready to take out my checkbook and write you another big one.
What are the main components of this process?
3 major components. At first, of course, you need to deploy a customer. And then you need to nurture that customer. Hopefully, for most solutions, it doesn't take more than a year to do the deploy. So you have that ongoing nurture already after a certain period. And then you have to prove your ROI to them. With each of those blocks, I defined 2 pillars. To be a bit more granular, I looked into a progression in kind of 4 different areas. Are you fairly new at this, or are you basically a thought leader in this particular pillar of 6? And so overall, I put this measurement framework together that allows you to self-rate yourself, or with the help of others, kind of figure out where you are in your readiness index on customer success, and have a score between 0 and 60, and then set the goals. Here are the things that I want to improve in order to get to kind of a next level. So it is similar to a maturity framework, but in a maturity framework, basically, in order to get a B score, you need to have a B in all your classes, to take the analogy. You cannot offset an A with 1 C. And here, at least, you have a bit more of that flexibility to do that offsetting.
Help me with these 6 pillars. So, can we maybe just talk about them one at a time?
Absolutely.
And just break those apart a little bit. So, because the overall framework it's not rocket science. Like, you've categorized what we already know. Just obviously deploying it, nurturing it, ROI.
Yep.
But then these pillars help us to kind of just ask the question: are we doing this? Are we not doing this? Are we here? Are we fully baked out? Can you do you want to just go over those real quick?
An interactive playbook. The way you implement the software, you can read through it. You can click from one step to the next. What do I need to do as a customer in order to harness the full potential of this ERP suite. Some people are less mature and they think if I write it down kind of as an administrator manual, that is enough for me. But that doesn't connect all the dots. And so you need to bring in services consultants that help you with the implementation. You also need to integrate with other services to consume data, to pass on data, to integrate, and all this needs to be thought of and defined well. So that is the first pillar.
So we're in deploy right now. We've just talked about playbooks to start out with. Now we're going to onboarding.
Once you have your service, kind of that new cog in this entire framework, implemented so that all the cogs connect, then comes the onboarding of the actual users. And the question is again, who is doing that and how are you doing that? I've seen companies still using the engineering team to do this, which distracts them from being an engineer and become more of a business consultant as someone to help people on board. And of course, at the very other end of the spectrum is the ability for you as a company to onboard additional people yourself because you have all the tools, you have maybe some internal thought leaders, a center of excellence, or someone like that who can basically spread the word and evangelize internally so that you have all the users that you bought your subscription licenses for ready and excited to harness the value of the solution.
We've made it through onboarding. We're now at the nurture phase.
Yes.
Let's dive into those two.
Two key critical components that had the most bang for the buck. The building of a community, not just within the users of one company, but within users of other companies as well. And this is more than having a community platform that everyone that has a subscription license to the software is part of. It is a question of how do you manage that community? People that are helping through this implementation phase, they have different struggles. They need to talk to different people than someone who is an end user, someone who is a manager, someone who is an executive. So you need to split a bit there. But be wise about it because if you have too many fragmented communities, people get lost in them. So very simple. I proposed let's have one for the new folks that have all these questions. Well, where do I start? Should I do it in this way? Who has done it in that way, etc., etc., right? And in a community, you have people that are willing to step up and provide that answer to you. And you can provide, as part of this community framework, of course, your own expertise in that. And then have another community that you get promoted in when you're successfully deployed. You can celebrate the fact that you made it through the implementation phase and you're now being in this harnessing of value phase, right? And so these are a couple of things that are more than here's a community platform, welcome to it, and here are a couple of links that you can kind of find your own way through.
We're now coming into the final piece of this, which is the ROI main cycle. And you're saying there's value and then there's alignment. Is ROI like at the end of the 360-day contract, or is it just a constant thing that you do?
It should be a constant thing. On a quarterly basis, this typically bodes well. This fits into the executives' calendars. And throughout the entire life cycle, you can then review. If you are still in the implementation phase, we're on plan. You are exactly where all our other customers are. You are where all the references that you called earlier on during the sales cycle were when they were with us at that stage of the journey. That makes an executive feel confident. It's like, yes, okay, there is no risk. If there is a risk, you can outline it. Other companies are typically already way further along in their adoption cycle, meaning from the implementation, from the onboarding phase, etc., than you are. Let's revisit some of the points that we had set out as success milestones and why we didn't reach them. And that provides transparency and honesty. And then when you're fully deployed or initially deployed, then you can switch the subject and go more to the productivity, the value add, and communicate this. And communicate this again with all the other things that you should do in a QBR, which is to align their strategic initiatives with your strategic initiatives, right? So that the partnership is not just on the initial outset, but is growing and is prospering. And that leads then to the upsell, the cross sell.
Depending on where we are in terms of the maturity of this, is one of the solutions to crossing the chasm, is what you're saying, in a service economy. So if we have a super weak customer success department, that's going to be part of our problem as we try to cross this chasm
Exactly.
in the way that Jeffrey Moore describes it. That's
Yes,
ultimately what you're saying.
precisely. So if you're doing it more in a tacit or maybe no more in the numerical fashion that I prefer, right? You can say, oh, these aspects I have pretty much baked. These aspects I'm kind of not as good as I could be. I'm doing a lot in regards to capturing maybe the voice of the customer, but not the productivity of the customer. So let me align that a little bit. I'm not communicating to the stakeholders often enough about the information that they care about for them to then remember when it comes time to renew, right? Where that journey led you. And then you can say, yes, I focus on this, or you can say, oh, I think I have a great customer success function already in place, but I think in my implementation, I could do more. I think I could do something more about nurturing the customers that I signed up for, each individual user, to again the entire company in its relation to you, and then gain some additional ground and some additional information that I need to provide in the next QBR an action plan how to close any gaps that are there. Nobody is perfect. And if you're at a 70% score to get to an 80% score, it's worth your while. Right? And if you're a 90%, then feel good about it and tell other people how to get to the 90%. That is also valuable information to have. So, yes, you can use this to kind of benchmark yourself slightly against. I'm never about follow this religiously, but to provide some guidance to companies to help them build kind of this 360 all around framework to be in place so that you have everything together to serve your customer in the long run, and in result cross the chasm with companies that expect more than a cool technology that you say here it is, and they just love it and they figure it out internally because their enthusiasm is so contagious that they don't worry about all this other stuff. Oh, I don't need a community, I don't need to measure my productivity, I love it so much. I don't worry about the QBR. I see the value. I'm excited. Right? These are these early adopters, but these are not the companies that you find too often. And so, in order for you as a company to be successful, you need to cater to an audience that has higher expectations.
I like this. I see it because it's like we have to push ourselves
Yes,
to be able to
exactly.
start to cater to those companies, especially if we're still in the early adopter phase.
Yep.
As we get to those early majority and late majority customers, they expect this, and we just have to step up our game. So this is just a quick like benchmark of where we are. So where should we go if we want to actually get our own score and know where we are?
Yes, the entire article is split into 4 publications, which are coming out on a roughly bi-weekly basis on the Strike Deck blog. And the first part, which is the overview, has been already published. Depending when you're watching this, the other ones may already be available as well. But already in the summary is the framework explained. There is, don't get too scared, a minor formula at the bottom where you can just see where you are between 0 and 60 and get a first feeling. And then in the subsequent articles, the 6 pillars are explained in a bit more detail, as we did here also, to help you dig a little deeper into what does this cell in this matrix really mean.
This has been incredible. Thank you so much for your
You're so
time.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Another great episode of Successfully Live.